In the corridors of Nigerian politics, alliances are everything. Politicians form unions not because they are best friends, but because survival in elections often depends on numbers, resources, and strategy. But sometimes, even the most powerful alliances fall apart, and when they do, they change the course of history. One of the most defining political questions in recent Nigerian history was this: why did Peter Obi, the respected former governor of Anambra State, refuse to run with Atiku Abubakar again after the 2019 election? At first glance, the two seemed like a natural pair: Atiku, a wealthy northern politician with decades of political experience, and Obi, a disciplined technocrat with a reputation for financial prudence and humility. Together, they looked like the perfect north-south balance. Yet by 2023, Obi had broken away, standing on his own as a presidential candidate under the Labour Party, leaving many Nigerians asking, what really happened between Atiku and Obi? This is the story of political ambition, ideology, betrayal, and conviction, a story that explains why Peter Obi chose not to run with Atiku Abubakar again. To understand why Obi refused, we must first revisit 2019. That year, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, was desperate to unseat President Muhammadu Buhari and the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. Atiku emerged as the presidential candidate, and after long deliberations, he picked Peter Obi as his running mate. At the time, the decision electrified many Nigerians, especially in the southeast. Obi was already admired for his record in Anambra, where he governed with transparency, cut costs, and left billions in savings for the state. He was known as a man who carried his own bags, rejected convoys of luxury cars, and insisted that leadership was about service, not wealth. When Atiku unveiled Obi as his vice-presidential candidate, Nigerians thought the PDP had struck gold. Here was a combination of political might and moral integrity. But almost immediately, cracks appeared. Several PDP governors, especially from the southeast and south-south, complained that they were not consulted before Obi was chosen. They felt blindsided, and some even refused to support the campaign wholeheartedly. During the electioneering season, Obi himself was often sidelined from major decisions. His speeches were sometimes cut short, his ideas ignored, and he was treated more like a passenger than a partner. In the end, the ticket lost to Buhari and Osinbajo. But for Obi, the experience left a bitter taste. He had learned the hard way that being someone's running mate did not always mean being respected. Atiku and Obi represented two very different philosophies of leadership. Atiku Abubakar was the consummate politician, a businessman with enormous wealth, deep connections, and a reputation built over decades in government. He believed in using his financial muscle and political machinery to secure power. Obi, however, built his brand as a reformist. He preached about cutting down government waste, investing in education and healthcare, and promoting accountability. Where Atiku symbolized the old establishment, Obi represented the hope of something new. For Obi, returning as Atiku's running mate in 2023 would have meant compromising his ideology. It would have tied him once again to the very system he wanted to change. Nigerians who saw him as different would begin to doubt him. And so, instead of playing second fiddle, Obi decided to take the risk of running on his own. The PDP was once Nigeria's dominant party, but by 2023 it was riddled with divisions. The choice of Atiku as presidential candidate created new cracks, especially because many Nigerians felt it was time for power to shift to the south. When Obi was considered again as a possible running mate, whispers within the PDP hierarchy reminded him of his 2019 experience. He remembered how he was excluded, how decisions were made without him, and how certain governors openly opposed his inclusion. Why return to the same system that did not value him? Obi chose dignity over convenience. By leaving the PDP for the Labour Party, he embraced the uncertainty of building something new rather than repeating a painful old script. Another critical factor was regional balance. Nigeria's politics has always revolved around zoning, the unwritten rule that power should rotate between north and south. By 2023, many Nigerians believed it was the southeast's turn. No Igbo person had ever been president since Nigeria's return to democracy in 1999. Peter Obi was the natural candidate to carry that banner. If he had accepted to run with Atiku again, he would have weakened the Southeast's strongest chance at the presidency in decades. Instead, by standing on his own, Obi became the symbol of that long-awaited dream. His candidacy was more than personal ambition, it was about representing the hope of an entire region. Beyond politics and strategy, Obi's decision came down to personal values. Throughout his career, he has repeated one phrase: politics is not a business. It is not about sharing money. It is about service. Running again with Atiku would have contradicted his values. He would have been seen as a politician who simply wanted power at all costs, not one who stood for principle. By stepping away, Obi reminded Nigerians that sometimes, the hardest decisions are the most honorable ones. His refusal was not about disrespect to Atiku, but about loyalty to his conscience. What happened next surprised even Obi himself. When he announced his candidacy under the Labour Party, many dismissed him as a fringe candidate with no structure. But what Obi lacked in party machinery, he gained in people power. Young Nigerians, disillusioned with both PDP and APC, rallied behind him. They formed what is now known as the Obedient Movement, a grassroots force that used social media, community organizing, and crowdfunding to campaign across the country. Obi went from being seen as an underdog to becoming one of the three leading candidates in the 2023 election. His campaign reshaped Nigeria's political landscape, proving that ordinary citizens could challenge the two-party dominance. Had he chosen to run with Atiku again, this movement might never have been born. Peter Obi's decision carries several lessons. 1. Principle over position. Sometimes, saying no to power is more powerful than saying yes. 2. Respect matters. A partnership without respect is doomed to fail. 3. The people are the structure. Obi showed that political parties do not own the people can choose their own structure. 4. History will remember. Whether or not Obi eventually becomes president, his refusal to be Atiku's running mate will always be remembered as a turning point in Nigerian politics. The story of why Peter Obi refused to run with Atiku Abubakar again is more than just a tale of political maneuvering. It is a story about conviction in the face of convenience, about choosing principle over compromise, and about believing that a nation can demand better leadership. In 2019, Obi accepted to be Atiku's running mate because he believed it was the best chance to challenge Buhari's government. But by 2023, the circumstances had changed. Nigerians were tired of recycled leaders, tired of the same promises, and desperate for a fresh voice. Obi realized that if he tied himself again to Atiku, he would become just another politician in the eyes of the people. By refusing, he risked everything: his reputation, his resources, and his political future. But in that risk, he also found a new identity. He became the leader of a people-driven movement that shifted Nigeria's political culture. Some critics argue that Obi's decision weakened the opposition, splitting the votes and giving the APC a smoother path to victory. Others insist that his courage opened the door for a new era of accountability and citizen-driven politics. Both perspectives may be true, but one thing is certain: his refusal changed the narrative forever. Obi's story shows us that politics is not always about the easy path. Sometimes, the most important decisions are the hardest ones. To refuse a powerful alliance is to risk irrelevance, but to accept it without conviction is to lose one's soul. In the end, Peter Obi's choice not to run with Atiku was not just about him. It was about Nigeria. It was about proving that leadership can be different, that alliances should be built on respect, and that principles must outlive political calculations. History will judge whether his gamble will one day make him president. But for now, his refusal stands as one of the boldest, most defining moments in Nigeria's democratic journey. And that, perhaps, is the real legacy of Peter Obi's no.